1,000 years ago, life in the ancient world. 1,000 years ago, the world was a place of vast, untamed beauty. Endless forests stretched beyond the horizon, their towering trees sheltering countless animals and echoing with the calls of birds. Wide rivers wound their way through valleys, their waters pure and teeming with fish. The air was clean, carrying the scent of wildflowers, wet soil, and fresh rain. Human civilization, though smaller and less complex than today, was thriving in its own way. Villages dotted the landscapes, clusters of huts made from wood, mud, and straw. Smoke rose from cooking fires, blending with the smell of baked bread and roasted meat. Life was simple, yet every day was filled with effort and purpose. Men often worked in the fields from dawn till dusk, planting and harvesting crops like wheat, barley, and rice. Women tended to household tasks, weaving clothes from wool or cotton, grinding grain into flour, and fetching water from nearby streams. Children played barefoot on dusty paths, chasing each other to the tall grass or helping their parents with small chores. The rhythm of life was set by the rising and setting of the sun, and the people's survival depended on the cycles of the seasons. In marketplaces, people traded goods instead of using coins. A fisherman might swap fresh catch for a basket of fruit, while a potter could exchange clay jars for a bundle of herbs. Colorful fabrics hung from wooden stalls, and the scent of spices like cinnamon and cardamom filled the air. Musicians played simple flutes or beat small drums, their melodies drifting across the square, mingling with the chatter of voices. Travel was slow and difficult. People moved on foot, on horseback, or in wooden carts pulled by oxen. Narrow dirt roads connected villages, winding through forests, hills, and open plains. Along these routes, travelers sometimes stopped at small inns or rested under the shade of giant trees. At night, the land was lit only by the glow of torches, campfires, and the silver light of the moon. The sky was a breathtaking sight, filled with thousands of bright stars unspoiled by the haze of modern cities. Food came entirely from the land and water around them. People hunted deer, gathered wild berries, and fished in lakes and rivers. They grew vegetables like onions, carrots, and beans, and kept animals such as goats, chickens, and sheep. Meals were cooked over open flames, with clay pots hanging above the fire or bread baking on hot stones. Water was fetched fresh from wells or streams, and milk was churned into butter or cheese by hand. Homes were simple but carefully built. Some were round huts with thatched roofs, others rectangular with clay walls. Inside, the floors were covered with woven mats, and beds were made from wooden frames topped with straw and wool blankets. Tools and weapons made of iron, wood, or stone hung neatly on the walls. Fireplaces kept the interiors warm during cold nights, and the smoke escaped through small openings in the roof. Clothing was made by hand, sewn from animal hides, wool, or woven plant fibers. Men wore tunics tied at the waist with leather belts, while women wore long dresses, often decorated with beads or embroidery. Shoes were rare. Most people walked barefoot or wore simple sandals made from leather straps. Jewelry, when worn, was crafted from bones, shells, or small polished stones, and often carried symbolic meaning. Life was closely tied to nature and belief. People honored the changing of the seasons with festivals, dancing, and feasts. They prayed for good harvests, safe journeys, and protection from sickness. Storytellers held an important place in society, gathering people around a fire at night to share tales of heroes, gods, and spirits. Their voices rose and fell with the crackling of the flames, weaving worlds of magic and courage into the minds of their listeners. Though the world was often peaceful, dangers existed. Wild animals roamed the forests, and storms could destroy crops or flood entire villages. Illness spread quickly without modern medicine, and people relied on herbal remedies passed down through generations. Despite these hardships, communities were strong. Neighbors helped each other rebuild homes, share food, and care for the sick. Unity and cooperation were essential for survival. The days ended quietly. As the sun dipped below the horizon, villagers returned from the fields, animals were brought into pens, and fires were lit for the evening meal. The orange glow from doorways flickered in the dark, casting long shadows on the ground. Above, the night sky unfolded in all its brilliance, and people lay beneath it, speaking softly, dreaming of the days to come. In this world of simplicity, Every breath was connected to the earth. Every heartbeat in rhythm with the turning of the seasons. A life slower, harder, but filled with a beauty and harmony we can barely imagine today. 1,000 years ago, how people lived in the world. 1,000 years ago, the world was a place of raw power, survival, and unbreakable traditions. People lived in scattered villages surrounded by thick forests, vast deserts, and flowing rivers. Life was harsh but full of purpose. Men worked the fields, hunted wild animals, and built their homes from mud, stone, and wood. Women managed the households, prepared food, wove fabrics, and raised children to follow the customs of their ancestors. The air was filled with the smoke of wood fires, the sound of livestock, and the smell of earth after rain. Food was simple but nourishing. Roasted meat from hunting, bread baked on stones, vegetables grown in their own fields, and water drawn from deep wells. People dressed in garments made of wool, leather, and hand-woven cloth. The nights were illuminated only by the light of the moon and flickering torches, and the days passed with a rhythm of work, prayer, and storytelling around the fire. But alongside the simplicity of life, there was a darker reality, rivalries and enmities that ran deep through the veins of society. Villages often clashed over fertile land, access to water, or control of trade routes. Sometimes, the cause was even more personal: a broken marriage promise, the insult of chief, or a theft that wounded honor. These grudges could last for generations. When two rival groups prepared for conflict, messengers would carry warnings to nearby allies. Men would sharpen their swords and spears, repair their shields, and gather in secret meetings to plan their moves. Before battle, elders would give fierce speeches, reminding the warriors of past victories and the blood debt they owed their enemies. The women, though not on the battlefield, played their part by tending to wounded, hiding the children, and preparing supplies for the fighters. These enmities were not fought only with weapons. They were battles of patience, cunning, and endurance. Raids were carried out at night, stealing livestock and burning crops. Ambushes were set along narrow mountain passes. Sometimes, a rival leader would be captured and held as leverage in long negotiations. Revenge was not just an act. It was a duty, a matter of family pride and tribal honor. To break that chain of vengeance was considered weakness, so grudges often continued for decades.